as you know, this is the Huddle, and I'm going to ad-lib here a bit, but we're your weekly playbook where we not only strategize on playing the game, but changing it. From mastering the fundamentals of the craft to distinguishing yourself in the marketplace, we're here to give the installer a voice and ensure you're equipped with everything you need. Let's band together and create a new legacy in flooring. This is where you belong. Welcome to the team. Guys, we got a great episode today. We got a guest, Miss Brooke Davis, who I met literally like 8 seconds ago. And that's my own doing, by the way. She was perfectly on time, and I'm running a bit behind today. But welcome, everybody. Today's episode is about embracing diversity, equity, inclusion, those kinds of things in your business. As we all know, these are hot topics, and they can get real political real fast. My goal is to kind of guide along. I don't have, a lot of, I see a lot of issue, but I don't have a lot of experience in this. And so we brought in an expert to help us along. So Brooke, can you give us a little bit of a background on yourself and some, a little bit about you?
I will, Paul. When you said you brought in an expert, I was like, who is that? That would be me. So, since I'm an expert today, I am Brooke Davis, and I currently am the Director of Diversity, Equity, and Mental Health Services for a school district, Kennewick Hills Public Schools. I'm a social worker by trade. I have my own consulting where I work with organizations to do training and facilitating on all types of things from team development, equity, and diversity. I teach classes, entrepreneur classes at Spring GR. So I work with young entrepreneurs to help start their business. And what does that mean for them? I'm starting my private practice with Purpose Counseling. And I actually teach a lead up class for first time managers at the chamber. So
you're a busy person.
No, and man, she was on time. I can't even make an excuse now.
You cannot, but yes, I like to stay busy with my passion project. So
awesome. Well, with me as always is Mr. Daniel and Jose Gonzalez out of Grand Rapids, Michigan, with Preferred Flooring. Gentlemen, how's the week starting off for you guys?
It's busy. I wish I had more time to actually do the things I needed to. It's been filled with meetings so far. So, I mean,
yep.
I know the feeling.
The necessary evil, I think.
Sometimes
trying to keep a lot of people happy and keep everything on schedule. And yeah. I mean, you understand,
I do. All right. Well, let's kick off the episode. Our episodes go anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour, just kind of depends. I was going to kick off with just maybe my understanding and how we approach, equal opportunity in the companies that I run. And one of them is we just don't care about those things. We care about the having a credentialing and the best person getting the job. And we've got, that's been successful for us. I know it gets harder with bigger companies. It's been really successful for us to have a good mix of everything. We in fact try to, in the skilled trades, our jobs are a lot of that work that is not the most desirable. A lot of times you don't go to college, or I've yet to have too many kids. I guess there's a few on TikTok, but that say, man, I want to be a carpet layer when I grow up, right? They're usually like firemen, or I want to be, so we have to get out and do some recruiting, and we try to be very cognizant of recruiting in, I don't even know if I'd say underrepresented, just like to minorities and women and anybody who wants to be in the trades. We want you. That's our message to everybody. If you want in the trades, we don't care. Come on.
Mm-hmm. If you don't want to be in a trade, we still want you.
Yeah. Exactly. So we're not maybe, that's kind of how we've approached it. My wife's Hispanic and she's part of the business, and we have a lot of, and we've done real well with recruiting of the Hispanic in the Hispanic community, not so well in other communities for some reason. And I would love to hear your thoughts on how companies can be better at those types of activities and maybe reach out to the right in the right ways where it is you know uh,
Just attracting
taken
more
in well,
ethnic
and it's
ethnicities. Yeah.
attracting more people. um, i don't um, I don't know that I have the answer to that, but that's how we've approached it to date.
Look, I'm going to break
And
the ice right now for you, Paul. I'm going to let you know that you are doing very well at being very, very aware of what you're trying to say without trying to make it because hey, everybody sees that you're a white dude, bro. And I know you're trying to
yeah, I'm
tiptoe
the
around
last one that
saying
should
certain
be
things.
talking probably,
Yeah,
but at the
yeah,
end of the
yeah.
day,
And no,
the
I get
truth
it.
Actually,
is that
Uh,
I feel like, I don't represent anybody. I'm Paul Stewart. I believe in individuality. That's just me. I believe in being yourself. And, I just didn't grow up to care about that stuff. I grew up in minority neighborhoods my entire life. My wife's Hispanic, and that's just who I am. 29 years with the same woman. Woo. Um, but the truth is that it can be a touchy subject. So yeah, I'm going to be very careful with what I say, but also to say that I really don't want. I wish nobody cared. If I'm honest, I wish it was just everybody worked together based on what they want to do in life. If you want to be a flooring guy, I'm your guy. Come on, and
yeah,
that's how I've approached life. So
I think I think that is good on one hand, Paul, because you can come with an authentic heart, but I don't think that's how everybody is raised. And I don't think that is how
mm,
people are brought into the work. We have I look at our educational system. You're not getting people. We during our little warm up where I was getting everybody, we talked about this bias that people are bringing into what you're supposed to do in life. Everybody is supposed somewhere down throughout history. They told us we had these roles and these guidelines we have to stay in, and it's just very hard to break that. We even went back. McDonald's has boy toys and girl toys. You can't be a girl and do certain types of work because it's not people don't come to the work, Paul, sometimes with that mentality that you have that is it's just not socially acceptable. So they're not even given a chance in high school to learn about these different options or careers or trades because they got to be a nurse. We put these traditional roles on men and women, and then even race goes back into that. And then you have to create an environment where people feel safe. I have to know that in order for me to work for you, um, I am safe, and what that psychological safety looks like, and how we can come to that. So it's nice that you've had that experience, but others just have coming into the space have just not have just. We have to start to do school differently. Trades have to be in the forefront. You don't have to say college or a trade. It should be. It doesn't have to be either or. It can be and. But you can do both, and or you can do both. Kids that should have opportunities to do both and explore both, but that is not what is taught. If you're in construction, if you go into construction, if you go into flooring, if you go in most educational systems, they're pushing males to those jobs, and there are some very good women who are good at design, building, trades, and doing those type of things. But our workforce development programs, when we look at our educational system, even in the state of Michigan or federally, are just not pushing people towards that type of work. So you're already coming in with people having this mindset. Before they even get to you, they have this mindset.
Right. And I think like today there's a few people that I know that actually went to college, and they started in at a company in like a project manager position, and then they got out of it and they're like, this is just not for me. I'm one of the people that needs to work with their hands. I can't just sit
yeah,
back and not do anything. So they I don't want to say that they wasted their time, right? Because education in all forms is important, because regardless of what you do, you should be learning something anyways. And education shouldn't stop at any point in your life. You should always be learning something. But they're they could have been doing something else instead of getting that degree, because technically they didn't need that degree into what they're doing right now.
We're not allowing people to live out their passion and make money from what they're good at in their passion. We just don't. So my mom, it was three of us, and we all went to college, and we all cannot even hang a picture between the three between the three of us. Whereas, let me tell you, this lady is
I
doing her.
can't believe you
She's
said
doing
that
up
out
her
loud.
floor. She got her work belt on. She building lamps. She's doing. I told her, you didn't. I said to her, why didn't you give us any of those skills? Because you're saving a whole hell of a lot of money doing your own stuff and having that talent versus really. And for people of color and even African Americans, it was that big push to go to college. It was to move away from these skills that we grew up with and sending us to school, because that is where the rubber for people in these communities hit the road. When in fact, I just went to her house in Detroit, and my dad said, "Oh no, she built that. She built a patio outside." Like, just watch the YouTube. And I
Reminds me
told
of
her,
that comedian.
and when I say we can't
Yeah.
hang a picture, I have a handyman that comes over here and he cracks up. He said, "Brooke, did you even try to put the little thing that go under your bed together? Did you even try?" I said, we have had these reverse roles in society for so long. You have these kids. We have trailer parks in our district, and I really didn't know what a trailer park was. I want to name that. Coming from Detroit, I was like, "What is a trailer?" My mother said, "What is a trailer?" I said, "I think it's a house on wheels." I have no idea. When you go to the trailer parks, this bothers me all the time. They don't know how to fix up their own trailers. They are run down. That we are not teaching people skill sets that they need for even not only working in the workforce, for basic survival. Windows are gone out. Flooring is
Well,
not.
how much of that is, just to challenge you a bit, how much of that is um, knowledge versus desire to and pride in your place? There's probably some of that as well.
I think it's a little. I think it's a little bit of both. I think it is. I am working as hard as I can to make ends meet, so I don't have time. But Paul, we have a window of opportunity if the parents don't to teach the kids, and that's where I feel like the gap is. If I go to the trailer park and I'm running programming in the summer, and I say, I'm going to teach you how to paint your trailer, do basic things to your trailer. This is a skill set kids should be able to have that will carry them, and then maybe by the time they're 16 and 17, they will pick other options other than college or a trade. But we're just not exposing them to some of the things that we need to expose them to when it comes to how to get them out there and to have that mentality to take care of their basic needs and themselves. I don't think people lack desire. I think if they have the skill set and knew, it is overwhelming when you don't have the skill set. I'm just in a position where I can pay somebody. My friend always says, somebody's problem, your problem is always somebody's solution.
Yeah.
I just don't have the
Well,
skills, I think, to do it. And that's a lot of people is we're not exposing to them. We just had our first career fair in school in elementary. When I was growing up, we had career fairs. These kids loved it. That's all they talked about. But I had to be very intentional about not just having police, doctor. We want a diversity in skills at this career fair so kids can say, this is an option. I didn't even know this existed, because all we teach about is the forced jobs that you can have, which kids aren't going to be an attorney. You're not going to be a policeman. You're not going to be a professional basketball player, and doctors. Those are the four. There are so many other things that we can expose kids to. Diversity is about access.
yeah.
People want to break it down and say it's about race. People want to break it down and say it is about access. If I can provide people with access to companies like yours, flooring, and different opportunities, society will function differently. It's about giving people access to opportunities so they can make these decisions themselves.
Like
Part of that, I wonder, is parents always want their kids to do better than them. Or if you didn't go to college, I didn't go to college. I wanted both of my kids to go to college because I didn't. It was almost more for me than them.
For sure.
And so breaking down those walls I think is part of it as well. And the education system that you mentioned makes perfect sense, because we talk on the podcast a lot about the fact that not everybody should go to college. And I'm not saying that it's either or, but if they had the option, as you said, the opportunity to the access to the trades and, flooring, carpentry, electricians, plumbers, drywall, painting. Like it takes a lot to build buildings, and it's one of the largest industries around is construction as far as total GDP. So why are we not giving them access? Why is that? I tell a story on here fairly often about when I first got going in flooring, and I was at a school laying VCT before LVT got popular, but laying some VCT in a hallway at a middle school, and I'll cut it real short. But I was going to the bathroom, and I heard the teacher say, "If you guys don't straighten up, you're going to end up like those guys out there," as if our trade was. I mean, it took a lot of geometry and stuff to do what I was doing, actually.
And then
A lot of
years
math.
later, we were working at a school. This had been like 15 years ago now, maybe not as long, but we were working at a school and they had people ripping out the flooring in front of us. And I was talking to one of them, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm actually a teacher. I just need something to do in the summertime because teacher's salary is not cutting it."
Yeah. Well,
And
that's what I'm talking about is like
but it's that mindset. It's that
it's like a
mindset.
stigma.
Yes, that is carrying these kids. And it's not just that, it is that whole idea, Paul, you said it, like our parents, my dad was a mailman for years, didn't go to college. My mom went when we were in college. My mom went back to college, but it's this whole idea of one of the things that I got from my parents even before going to college was work ethic. Like all of us even now we got 5 jobs. My brother's a teacher. We got 5 jobs. My sister, we've always learned to have this work ethic. Like I just told somebody, schools can close tomorrow. I'm not going to ever be broke. I'll be right at McDonald's doing what I need to do because I like things. But that's a different story than that when you talk about that desire and what we're teaching our kids to go in. But if you look at, I have a friend who built a deck, and you look at that and you look at the things that we can teach kids who do not have options for college, or let's be honest, do not even like it. We have so many kids that go and you just spend all this money and they come home and we've given them no other now what? Now, and I'm not saying, even the president of Grand Valley was talking about the idea of making space for trades, and she's the president of a college. Like we have to do this differently, and we have to look at, Paul, the idea of I wish everybody didn't care. Everybody, that's just not the world that's just not the world that we live in. I struggle 4 out of the 5 days at work. So I'm like, ooh, when I took this job, and very talented and probably could be doing something else related to this work, but it's a passion, and I want to stick in there, and I want our students to have every option that they can. But this year, the statistics for us was, my superintendent came to me and he said, KCTC, which is our career technical school, 1,300 plus kids in Kent County on a waiting list. That means we have 1,300 kids that want to do trades. We have nowhere to place kids. We have no options
Want
for
to get
kids.
out of class.
So you know what I mean? So now we got kids, you can't send them to college. They're not going to go to college. That's not an option for parents. We're not teaching them a trade. You talk about rundown spaces. If you could teach a 16-year-old how much money they can make fixing up basic skills to fix up trailers, like you can go around a neighborhood just charging basic money to help people paint. So we're not being productive in helping with growing workforces. We have to do this. Even when Daniel approached me about having we can have 1 credit classes, electives. You can come in and teach a foreign class, 1 credit class. You can easily come into schools, because what these kids are taking for some of these electives, we got kids doing internships. I said, what do you do for your internships? I go help in my mom's classroom. Do you want to do that? No, I want no part of that, Davis. You even break down these barriers to
They
say
have yoga as an elective.
Yeah,
yoga.
Break down these necessities. It's just not there. And again, for me, it is about, when I first started this job, diversity was about race and equity. Diversity was about gender. Diversity was about being a part of the LGBTQ plus community. Now it's about access. I am learning, if we do not give kids access and opportunities, we're not preparing them for things that they want to do. I don't know what in Kent County, I said, what you gonna do with 1,300 kids that's just running around the city wanting to do trades and wanting to do this, and there's no programs for them. Traditional education sometimes has to be done differently. And we still are under this mindset of everybody has to go to college. We're going to do 4 years of high school, 4 years of college, and the world is going to be peachy keen. And that's just not the way that it's going to be. It's just not. Nobody's going into education because, like Daniel said, you cannot even, the cost of living, our paraprofessionals are making $18,000 a year. I'm not working for that. That is what this educational system versus us looking at our 9th and 10th and 11th grade curriculums and saying, how do we expose kids to trades? How do we get them to find out what they love? How do we move away from gender specific toys? Y'all know I'm on my McDonald's thing, boy toys and girls. Get a girl some Legos. It's okay. You're not going to hurt the society if you give a girl some McDonald's toy that's a Lego. So I'm taking on McDonald's and these. Now I think they don't do boy and girl toys. They don't do these
gender specific
things. I'm hoping, but we have to do this differently in order for this to thrive and survive.
Right, and I think like with flooring in general, when you say we have to show them that it's an option, and flooring we struggle because we're fighting for a seat at the table to be named as a trade, because even in the unions, flooring isn't its own trade. We're grouped in with the carpenters or the painters. So we're fighting that fight at the same time. And for us, thank you for letting us be at the career fair, because they had a great time there. And some of these kids, I mean, they were telling me stories. They were like, you know what, I'm going to be back. I'm going to go around to the tables, but I'll be back. And then they focused a lot of their time
on, booth was hot.
Doing the click together flooring that we had.
Your booth was hot. The little construction booth was hot.
I had a student come up, was like, do we get to keep these? I was like, well, no, we didn't bring enough for everybody, but and I looked around, I was like, just put it in your bag if it fits. Just take it home. Just go ahead. Here's an extra pencil.
But even that has to be more of it. We're doing some work at one of our trailers, Alpine Meadows, and and it is, some of them don't own, we have to do work because they don't own the trailer. Like, I'm finding out the more I dig into this, we have slumlords, they're all over. They don't have the money to fix them up, but that doesn't absolve us from, I'm teaching a class at Alpine Meadows. I don't even know what the class is going to be about. But I told somebody, one of my entrepreneurs said that he can redo houses. He can help people redo houses. I said, there has to be a program where we teach people a skill. Let's just teach people some skills, please.
Hey, you find, and that's so I went to Union, which is not technically the greatest school in the world, right? And I'm not saying that it's bad, because that's where I came from. I'm proud of where I came from, and I'm very humble. But talking to people at like junior achievement and stuff like that, and they're like, we go to these schools, and some of these kids just think that they're stuck, like they're products of their environment. And since this is where I'm from, this is all I'm gonna ever be, and this is all I can do. And it's like, without them seeing people like us, it's like, no, you have an option. Like, this is where I came from, so it's all in how much work you want to put in. And I think that's something that's missing when people talk about it, right? Because they see a lot of where you're at now and not what you had to go through to get there. So they didn't see, a single mom on welfare living with her mom with 4 kids. They didn't see that part of our lives growing up. But that was the case, right? And that's where you talk about diversity and it not being just a race thing or a gender thing, but when the big picture thing is, that's what a lot of people think of, right?
Yep.
And that's where let's break that stigma right now. It's not just that, but it is very incorporated into that. And how can we get more people in it? We have to start talking to them and letting them know that they have more options than to just do whatever is around them at this particular moment.
Yeah.
So
And I don't,
changing the definition of what's perceived, the diversity as a definition and how it's perceived. I
yeah,
wrote that down, and I just want to add to that is maybe it should be more directed towards resilience, right? Because if you are well rounded and you do have a diverse background in more than one subject, and now you're incorporating the people that you surround yourself with, you could exude resilience, right? Like it goes to now, instead of you saying I know a guy, you're saying I have a guy or I have a family member. Now you're creating a circle that is diverse / resilient to a lot of different circumstances instead of one. And what she said, some Brooke, you said something earlier, and then Daniel just mentioned that too about I put it down as like corralling, like are students being corralled in these schools, or are children being corralled, or adults being corralled into thinking that they have the blinders on and they're only suited for one direction, and if they don't go into this higher education, that they're going to fail. Maybe it's a difference of the resources available, right? Being exposed to specific resources and just having the curiosity, right? And allowing them to their mindset to
I
grow a
think
little bit.
that's what she's kind of saying.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
Is
just exposure.
what we're being exposed to in school is basically what you would be good at, and what college program you should go through to do that. I mean, when I went to my school counselor, they did not say, "Hey, Paul, you'd be really good at flooring. Like, you would be a fantastic flooring guy." No, they were. I did some test or some, you know, and but the problem is, a part of the problem is, like, if you don't, then they say, well, you got to go into construction, as if that's a lower lot in life.
correct.
I
It resonated
that's
with me
the problem.
when the teacher said you're going to be doing this. Like that's not a healthy career. You almost want to say, if I wasn't out here doing floors, you wouldn't have a school. Like I
Yeah.
don't. What you gonna go on dirt? Like it's this idea. My brother is an African American male teacher in the Detroit area, which if you're in Detroit, you have teachers that reflect you. You know what I mean? You have people,
Mhm.
so it lets you know that you have the possibility of being a teacher. If kids don't see people that are reflected of them in flooring or have exposure to flooring or say, this is something, because it's not just the flooring. There's one part that we haven't talked about is really the business end of running a flooring company. Like it's one thing to be the person doing it, but eventually you are running your own company, whether you go to college or not. That takes, when I work with my entrepreneurs, I always say, the skill sets that you have and the knowledge that you can obtain doesn't always have to come from sitting in this college seat. I always say, I like to work. I don't want to work on I like to work in my business and not on my business. When I tell people by that, I mean, I don't want to do all the math, the science, hiring. I want to be the person doing the presentations. But at some point, I have to learn how to handle my money. I have to learn how to do hiring people. I have to learn. So entrepreneurship is not for the faint or weak of heart. The stuff that you're doing is just one level. Like I told somebody, if you have a gift that you can work with your hands, you build a company, you can go back to school and say, I want to take some business classes because I'm going to run my own company. I'm going to hire my own staff. I said, and that's where I think some of those gaps are. We're just sending kids to do the business part without being able to live sometimes what their passion is and work up from their passion. Entrepreneurship is starting to be huge right now. People want to be, because they trying to find jobs, trying to work. And there's just so many things that we found as Americans that we have gaps in. And so this whole idea of growing your own company and doing things is important, but because I choose that, I'm not less than. And that's sometimes how it's presented. Being a teacher, everybody doesn't have to.
Or that being the fallback, that being
Yeah.
the you can't be a
Contingency.
doctor, a lawyer, or a deal. Go do construction. It's in the movies even that way,
Yeah.
like it's like it's the if you can't do anything else, you go do that. Well, that's
Yes.
not true.
No.
Like,
But Paul, when you started and you said, I wish everybody didn't care. It's that bias that people are coming to. If that's all you're exposed to, and people think that being in construction or if this is these fallback jobs because that's all they see in the movies, these kids are growing up watching TV and watching what's great and what looks so pizzazzy when you watch TV. Like this is a job. Like YouTubers. I guess the kids tell me, Miss Davis, I'm gonna be a professional YouTuber. I said, what is a
That's what
professional YouTuber?
that's what my I just adopted 3 kids a couple of years back, and all 3 of them, my oldest 2 had different ideas. Of course, they're old enough that it wasn't being a YouTuber wasn't a profession. All 3 of my kids said they want to be a YouTuber,
Okay,
a
let me tell you
professional
something, Paul.
YouTuber. I'm like, come on.
Let me tell you something, no, Paul. I said the same thing you said. I said, I don't even know that that's a thing. I told my guy kids, that's not a
But
job. You're gonna get a real job.
the
That's not a job.
crazy thing is
Some
that you can
people are
become.
making so much
Yeah.
money if they're good. I watched a video and I said, if that
But you
is
got to
your
be good
talent,
at something.
but you have to be good at it. That's like me saying I'm gonna be. I told
You got-
somebody when they said I'm gonna be a professional YouTuber, I said I'm gonna be a professional basketball player. They said, no, you're not. And I said, well, no, you're not either. It is a job. It is something real. We cannot see people who do it and do it well. But again, I'm not. I when I was in Wyoming, I used to work in Wyoming public schools, and I told one of the kids, give me a T-shirt that say Dream Crusher, because I'm gonna walk around crushing y'all dreams.
Oh, somebody's got to be realistic and kind of.
We got to look for other options.
Say the
for
things that no one wants to hear, right? But they have to hear it so that way they can explore other options. They can't wait until they fail and fail and fail and then say, well, now let me hear these other options. They have to know that there's things available that could build onto their strengths, right? And these YouTubers that are famous, right? Sometimes it happens by accident, but they're passionate about what they do. Like they
Right.
put in
And
the
they're
work.
good at it.
They're putting
like what Justin
in
says right
the
here.
work. They're putting in the work. And I'm not saying you can't be. I told one kid, you got to act. When kids say that to me, I say, well, why do you want to be a professional basketball player? Because there's so many jobs in sports that you can do that our kids will be good at if we expose them to them. But we stop at, I want to be a professional basketball player. Well, if you're not, what else can you do? And let me help you research. Let me help you figure it out. We now are starting assessments with kids to figure out, well, do you want to work with your hands? Yes. Well, let's look at jobs that you can do that. And then maybe you want to be debt free and you go to college later after you have this sustainability and you say, I got fluid cash because I if you take a 14-year-old and you give them a skill that they can work all through high school, they will pay for college themselves. I said, but we miss that. We miss this boat because we're not teaching kids at lower levels how to get these skill sets. And then maybe they can say, you know what? I've been doing flooring my whole life with my dad, with my brother, with my cousin. I'm good at it. I know the ins and outs of it. I know how to do it. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to help my family business. I don't want teachers discouraging that. I want us to figure out, okay, great. Because you have a skill set that I don't have that's more knowledgeable than me. And that is where sometimes I think we miss the boat. Diversity is about celebrating difference, and we don't allow a lot of that difference to come in place. And I had to get there. Let me tell you, I had to get there when I looked at my diversity journey and my equity journey and doing this for a school district with how do I encompass ideas of people who don't think like me because they are out there? How do I encompass ideas that really help our students get what they want and learn and grow? And so sitting in this space, I really had to think of some things differently. We had one entrepreneur in our class. He wasn't supposed to be in there. I told him, you snuck in, 16-year-old. I said, oh, you gonna make a lot of money because I said, you even have a business? And he said, yes. And I told somebody last night, he is smart enough to get business and farm it out. So he gets business and he calls Paul and says, I have a job for you. He charging somebody $1,200. Paul's only getting $300. I said, but do you actually do the work? He said, no, I don't know how. I said, wait a minute. This is a thing. But somebody told me, yes. I said, but we don't take these talents. He said to me, I have to convince my parents not to send me to college, that I have gifts in other areas. That's why I snuck into this class, because I'm not getting it in school. His parents told him, you are college bound no matter what. He said, he's super smart. When he told me his grades, I said, you're too smart to get those grades. He said, I am bored to pieces sitting in classes. Nothing is reflecting what I want to do.
That's the crazy thing. That was me too in high school. They tested me and they put me in honors classes, and my GPA was like 2.1. It's like, I should not be in these classes, but it's the same thing. It's like, they didn't interest me. Right. But, and it was always like the English class or history class. Like, no, put me in a math class and science class, A's all day long.
Well, and that is if they think that you can handle those classes, because that now is where race comes in. Culturally, we don't think based on our data, you should be in math or English being a Latinx male. We don't think because you're a Latina male, we're not giving options. Luckily, you went to Union, because I just looked at data for schools across the board, and we still have gaps with kids that are getting A's and B's that are students of color that are not recommended for honors classes or not put in certain situations because we don't think they work hard enough because of the family might have broken homes. We don't think they can handle it. They might be, I have a kid who is a disruption problem 4.0. And I said,
that's me.
I said, you better celebrate that gift, because I put him in leadership, put him to work. One kid came to me and redid my whole computer. I said, can you help me with my computers? And don't tell nobody I gave you my password. He said, I'm about to have you set up, Miss Davis. You about to have all access. And I did. And they said, Brooke, how did you get your computer work? I said, I had a kid come in here and do it. Y'all don't know what these kids know.
They know.
I'm not embarrassed to say I will pay a kid. I pay kids. I told kids, this could be a profession of yours. But we don't do that because we are stuck in society of saying, because colleges get money, this is the next level. And even in colleges, there should be some trade opportunities to teach them how to do that and do that well. So people are working in their gifts and passions. And then how do we make sure that we are putting people in those situations and not making them do something based on race, not saying that you're not good enough because you grew up in poverty, or not saying you're not good enough because your mom was on welfare, or not saying you are not good enough. Somebody told me the cure for cancer is sitting in the inner city, in the hood. We're just not celebrating it. It's sitting right now in somebody's house with somebody's mother that is on what I said, it's not me. Don't get me wrong. I don't belong in anybody's operating, nobody's hospital, because I believe some people push that way and should not be. But we're not celebrating that. But my mother has told me, she said, if she could do it all over, I said, you know how much money I spend getting people to come in here and help me do stuff versus if you would have just taught us to do some of the skills that you had, that our parents had to have. They had to have these skills. My mother had to learn these skills because they didn't have money to buy people. But she does everything. She does her own painting. She took her wallpaper down. She's 80. She was like, I'm not hiring nobody. I'm doing this myself. And my dad gets
and she probably likes it.
Loves it.
Yeah.
Loves it.
That's the reason why I learned so much. I had to, like single mother, car breaks down. She don't have money to pay. It's like, all right, mom, let's learn. Or she said she started with tires, taught me how to change a tire, change the oil. Right. That was it. I was like, well, what happens if this breaks? She's like, I don't know. I call your uncle. Well, I'll learn how to do that. I'll learn how to do that, mom. So you don't have to call nobody. I took auto mechanics. Like, I'm 14 years old and I'm helping replace engines because I want to learn. Hey, I'll come and help you. I'll come and do that. I want to help. I just want to learn. And I would go do all that. And, that was what I did. I built lowrider bikes, helped fix engines, learned how to do brakes at a young age, change tires. That was all before I was 16.
And those are skills you cannot take, or those are skills that you will have forever. My niece can do everything. She's the only niece, only grandchild. She told me, she said, oh no, I do everything with BB. She cooks the family Thanksgiving. I told my mother, if you and daddy pass away, we ain't gonna never have another Christmas dinner or Thanksgiving because the three of us can't. I'm telling you, only thing you built us for was to go to college. And I said all the other stuff, and I'm not running the university, but we have to keep putting these kids in those spaces because they want to learn. My niece can hang pictures. They hang in TVs. My handyman was like, he goes around, he works at GM. He goes around, he says, on the weekends, I put TVs up in people's houses. You know how many people you didn't put? I said, I do know, because you didn't put 3 TVs up in this house. But that's what he does. And he's making a killing because it's a skill set that he taught himself to continue to move on. And he's in that learning space all the time. He said, what I take at GM and learn, I try to transition it into other projects and other lives. But he said, that's not where I was supposed to be. Everybody tells me I was supposed to be doing something different. And he makes good money at GM, and he makes good money with his little side hustle. You're making good money. So we can't negate that.
Yeah.
No, this goes back to the conversation that I had with Paul a few years ago. And it's actually making me think about it. It's probably just over 2 years ago we talked about that. It's like, why don't they have like some sort of aptitude test for students at a younger age to push them in a direction that better suits their knowledge base, their skill set, the way their brain works, for a better chance of success. And then as they get older, now you start filtering everyone out into different directions. And then it might actually decrease it will decrease the failure rate of higher education in some students, and it increase the success rate of the students that belong in the higher education. Not everybody should be pushed towards corporate America, right? Construction America exists. Entrepreneurship exists. There's a lot of other other avenues that we can kind of sprinkle everyone across instead of only having like 4 or 5 main channels. And I think that's where the issue is I wasn't geared for higher education. I was so bored in class. I just like lost it. I got kicked out of class when my mom was in class with me. We went back to school together. I got kicked out in front of my mom. And I thought it was the most hilarious thing. And then I still scored higher than her and she was mad at me. But it's all right. It's just one of those things where teachers as individuals can see what students have and the gifts that they have, but then they pass them on the next year to someone else. Like back in the day, they used to grow with them.
It still sounds like with the advent of, all of these higher education, like all the schools, all the colleges, there's more of them and there's more options at each school as time went on, like degrees on degrees on degrees that don't equate to a standard of living that would, I mean, if it was a stock, if the same thing was somebody offering for you to buy a stock, I'll say the stock for $40,000, but it's going to take you 30 years to make back the 40, and you may not make it back. Like you'd walk away.
You are right, Paul.
There that
it does not make sense the amount of money sometimes we're spending in colleges that we cannot pay back because I'm a social worker by trade. I went to Aquinas private school, cannot pay back. Grand Valley cannot pay the amount of money and the amount of barriers sometimes we put for even people getting these jobs. We graduated from Grand Valley, and then after we finish our master's, you got to take a test. The test is $270 every time you take it. People taking the test 5 and 6 times just to maintain their employment when you could be a social worker, which is helping people and still be good at it without the test. I was like, the test is not going to prove that you are good at this job. It is just another barrier. And that's the kind of stuff that we have to think about. But we also have to think about we get so caught up in schools on curriculum to the fact that how do we keep kids engaged so they want to do the career? Kids are disengaging. There's not enough hands-on. There's not enough. I mean, even to try to organize a career fair, I had somebody say, do we really need this? I said, these kids are
it's like taking shop class out.
Now I'm doing it. Now they saw how successful it could be. Now I got to do one at every building, which is what our intent is. Now I want to be out in neighborhoods talking to kids about different things because kids are coming out differently. They want to be doing their hands. They're exposed differently. They're technology driven. They are. I have seen some kids at 5, 6, and 7 that really get into this whole idea of being self-sufficient and doing some of these things. We have to start to celebrate that. That's that. When people say to me, I struggled in this job because I was fighting everybody, and I'm still fighting everybody. But one thing I learned was when we say celebrate diversity, or when we say how to bring diversity into our workplace, we have to have a plan on how to celebrate the gifts that our employees are given, how to get them to where, and that is happening through conversations. That is happening through creating that sense of belonging to where, I always say, when you start what do you want to do long term, and how do I get you there? I told somebody, you make somebody, in my team, when I have my team, I told them, I'm going to make you better than me. I'm going to love you enough to stay, but I'm going to produce you. I want you to be able to take my job at any point. And if you tell me you want to leave and you're ready, I feel like I have gotten you to the level that you want to be at. And if you tell me I don't want your job, I just want to come in and help some kids and be a social worker, then I'm going to teach you how to help some kids and be a social worker. But we have to open our ears and start listening to people and start allowing them to have space to talk through what is important to them. And it has to be reflective. Like, I don't want to go to a place right now. When I first started Kennewa, I was the only Black person that worked at Kennewa. And my mother said, no. Your grandfather was a custodian. There's got to be a custodian. Go find a custodian. Don't call me no more. No custodian. Then my mother said, both of your grandmother were cooks. They both cooked. One was that big boy. She said, it has to be a cook. We had a lunchroom table as our dining room table. My mother said, that came from your grandfather. There has to be one person in this school district that looks like you. I told my mother. And my friend was like, how do Hills? The cooks are Black. I go get me a lunch. I said, no. There is not one person in this district that looks like me. And I told my mother, said, oh, and I said, but I'm going to stay. Because I said, these kids deserve somebody who struggled in school. My parents just told me I was kicked out and sent to alternative school. Listen, y'all, I thought I went to a school. I said to my mother, remember that school I went to? She said, oh, yeah, I told my mother, when I see that lady, I'm going to beat her up because she kicked you out of school and they wouldn't let you back in. I said, I got kicked out of school? She said, yes, me and your dad didn't want to tell you, but you got kicked out of school and sent to a school in Detroit for troubled teens. And you brought all the kids to the house in the neighborhood, and we were the first Black family in Detroit on our block. So you had all the Black kids, all the white kids, all the naughty kids, all the good kids. You had them all at the house because your daddy said, well, we didn't send her to this school because we can't get her in anywhere else. I never had any idea. Thank God I had parents who loved me and said, she's not going to get all A's. She's different than her sister and brother. You're not going to destroy her in this educational system. Y'all not going to bring her down because she's different. You're going to celebrate the gift she does have. And it might not be getting all A's like her sister and brother, but we put kids in these spaces to where they just put out. My mother said, you've always been a community advocate. You've always been going to the parks trying to say, well, this guy can do this or that can do that. Can we help this person? But that's not celebrated, because if you don't want to be a teacher, a doctor, a principal, all these jobs, then there's sometimes no space for you. And we have a lot of kids that we are leaving out, which for sure affect any type of trade. When kids are not getting placed in those systems, when kids are not being able to do that, you are going to see a decrease in who's coming through your door who can actually do the work. Because it starts with when they have these educational experiences. That's where it starts. So we have to start to do school to reflect.
Well, you got to bring back shop. Bring back shop class.
They took it out and they have not looked back.
That was my favorite class when I was growing up. I built a lamp for my parents. I thought I was going to be, a furniture maker. I did upholstery. It was awesome.
Some of these kids have never made an ashtray, and it shows.
Right. My car, we did the cars, and we raced them every year. My car won every year up until my senior year, because if your car won, they just kept on putting it back in there. And my car won every year until my senior year. And then the teacher finally told me, yep, someone beat you.
I am 50. I just turned 50, just had my 50th birthday.
Happy birthday.
Congrats.
Thank you. And I celebrated. I'm not one of the people who had it. But the stuff that you all are talking about, I was on the cusp of when those things started getting canceled. You know what I mean? Like, we didn't have these classes. We didn't have this. Those shops started getting canceled. Home ec started getting canceled. My mama said, y'all can't cook to save y'all life. Please help y'all take a cook.
Yeah, we had home ec too.
She said those are some of those basic skills were getting canceled, and everybody keeps saying, well, parents should be teaching it. But it says something when I can sit in the class and then you're like, you making a car, competing with this car. I'm learning a skill that maybe my parents didn't have. Like maybe that, but they started canceling. I told my mother, I can't remember when we had those classes. That is when they started to change things, cancel things. And the system I'm not saying if it's a system, if it's broke, don't fix it, but there were some good things that we took out that now we are trying to figure out how to get back, that there's just not a lot of options. 1,300 kids in the state of, in Kent County. That's not even a state. That's in our county that will not have access to a trade because we have no options anymore of where to send them and no classes being taught. We only have one option. The KISD has one option to where kids can go. Whereas now, Kendall, we're trying to start internships with people in the community. We're saying, can this kid come to your place for an internship and learn? Can this kid come to your place for an internship and learn? We're starting to set those up ourselves because we have kids who say they prefer to do that than just sit in a class all afternoon. They want to learn a trade and a skill, and they know they're going to be good at it.
Getting to know who that the kids on an individual level.
Yeah.
Class size. I mean, it gets really complicated. You start digging into this thing because it can go all the way to class sizes increasing and teachers not being able to kind of individualize their attention to, when you got 15 students in a class versus 50 and it's like you almost can't get to know them to make sure that they go to the, you're kind of encourage them in the right direction. So it gets really complicated, but having the access to, we say it all the time, because like when we go around, if fact, one of my friends does a lot of teaching, a lot of training in flooring, and he'll show kids. They'll do like a build my future. That's the name of it. He's like, they
Okay.
didn't even know that flooring was an option. They didn't even know that that was like a trade. Here you are walking over billions of square feet of flooring every year, and
Mhm.
it's like not even known as an option. It's kind of like, how do you expose that on a big level? Um, that's a mystery to me, but
But even if you start small, even if you start with, I got people, Gonzalez's are in my district. They're family in my district. You got people who do flooring. We got people who don't have internships. You got people in the, it's understanding your community, them having a seat at the table, because I always say who's not at the table, whose voice is missing. Who do we need to bring in to help us solve this? I don't know about flooring. I don't know about trades. Who do I need to bring in to help me? Which means somebody has to be willing to listen. So this principal, white male who thinks they know more than the world, who ain't never put in a floor, has to be willing to listen and say, listen, I know about trades and skills. Let me help you with this. Who is not at this table who can honestly help us on a smaller level solve some of the problems? We got to give people seats at the table to where we are not diminishing people's voices because of our own bias. Because we think if you have a teacher, you hear you're going to turn out like the man who's outside the door. I wish one kid said, well, what the hell is wrong with him? He's working every day. He in here every day helping you out.
Mhm.
We're doing bonds. We're getting all this stuff done. So we have to change that mentality and work with our community. And the community cannot be just one single person or one race in the community. It is so many different things. We have so many different kids that could say that until that career fair, and I saw kids and what they were grabbing. We had a farmer. I said, bring a farmer. Kids want to do farming. We had construction. We had a nurse, and we had my friend is a social worker, but she also works for the airline steward. She said kids were asking me how many buttons are on the plane. They were asking, because that's their, you know what I mean? Because she said,
yeah,
look, these kids want to know about how to build the plane.
Probably
They
my
I
say,
mean,
son.
I'm the
there
person
is
who's selling the
there is
ticket.
a pilot shortage too. So
She, and she was like, she said these kids want to be the ones that are these questions that they were asking. She was like, they want to explore. They don't want to be I'm the person that passes out the tickets. And I told them that. And she said, yes, I see the pilots. Yes, I'm on the plane. But she said, kids want to get their hands dirty. They want to know what these jobs and professions look like. And she said, I told a kid a whole lot of buttons. She said, but I wanted to say, I want to take you to see a plane. I want him to explore a plane. I want him to ask what the buttons mean. She said, I was just listening to him thinking we are still missing the boat on helping these kids understand that there is a space for you. There was a little girl who did not leave the construction. They had a little construction thing she could build. She had on a dress, she had on some tights. She was on the floor, legs wide open, building her stuff the whole career fair. I said, have you moved from here? She said, no, this is what I want to do. I said,
Yep.
okay, well, stay here. But that's not celebrate. She's a first grader. By the time she gets to fifth grade, that is going to be discouraged, told she's going to be doing something different, not making a space, because we don't know how to integrate that yet. We just have a system that Naviance that we're working with our kids to help them assess some things that they want to do honestly. Like, this is where you can put in there, I like to work with my hands. I'm gifted at design. I'm gifted at seeing different things. Like my mom said, I never thought I was gifted at their house in Detroit is very nice, but she's done a lot of it herself, like the layout of the house, the couches, when you walk in, people are like, wow, did she hire a designer? I said, herself. I said, she don't have no
Pinterest.
a designer. She the one who figured out where to put the couch, the lamps, but she said, that was never something that I was told, that my parents told me I had to go to college. She said, which I didn't. I went and I left. Me and here, we had you all, and I got to go back. But she said, this is her heart and soul. I said, I always want a grown-up place like you, Mom. I want a grown-up place like this. And she was like, well, you like too much clutter. But she's just good at it. But it was never celebrated that she was good at it, because they said, well, you're not going to make any money doing that. And now she see people on TV like having their own shows, home improvement shows.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, she's like, people are blowing up.
Getting their own line at Target because they got a home improvement show.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like, I love this, because this is when I talk about diversity and equity, this is not a conversation I get to engage in. This is not something that we really talk about as it relates to how do we make diverse spaces for all of our students that reflect the workforce, that reflect really what they want to do. It's fighting. It is understanding and different things. But these are the
Sounds
conversations.
like the system is a little bit flawed there. Sounds like the faucet of options and opportunities have been closed off at too young of an age, and there's not enough.
Well, there's
We're
not
afraid of
enough
overloading them
exploration.
with information.
It's coming full surface. It's coming back around. So what happened was, for a long time, we didn't talk about trades. They never did anything. But now kids are, now that we got these statistics that 1,300 kids signed up and there's no space for them in the county, there's nowhere to put them. Kids are starting, we're now starting to see kids want non-traditional. So before it was, we had a few home ec non-traditional. We went the traditional route. Everybody does math, calculus, honors, all this stuff, which is definitely a space for. And then now kids are saying, it's reflected in their attendance. It's reflected in their behavior. It's reflected in how many go to college. So now they're bringing that back up because that's where we're starting to see success. And when these kids have these options, so schools are trying to think differently about how to keep these kids engaged, because that's where we're struggling. Our data is showing us we have attendance problems, but nobody wants to come to a place they don't like. And so kids are staying at home. They're not engaging. So that's why I think it's coming up more.
It just seems like to me that the options are at the upper level, meaning you can go get a degree in 1,000 different things that'll cost you money. But in your regular education, there's less options today than there was when I was in school, whether it's economics or home economics or class or, or shop class, or you could do mechanics class. There was all kinds of stuff to do. And now all that's gone out of it. That started, like in middle school is when you could go to shop class. Back then it was called junior high, showing my age. But, you could go to shop class in junior high, and then, or you can go to mechanics class, home ec. There was a bunch of different things you could do. We have less option at the lower level, and then more options in the level that costs you money. To me, it just seems backwards.
Yeah.
Like, put those things down here. If you want to explore social work, you want to explore construction, the trades, you want to explore being a chef and being a cook, or
it costs money to explore when you get older. That's what it is. You're absolutely right.
At the lower level, it's not there. You got to pay to get, and by that time you're like 19, 20 years old, and you got to take in debt to explore. And that just seems backwards to me.
Well, what's nice about that, Paul, is I think slowly but surely they're starting to realize that. The problem is,
it sounds like it.
You only have one option, KISD, here in Kent County. They're the only option now for kids to do that exploring. That's why you have the wait list, because it's actually moving kids out of their school building and out of their district, trying to explore.
What about
the West Michigan Construction Institute now too?
Yeah. So now, but those are ones that are now starting, because we are starting to see so many more kids who want those options. But you got to remember, when you have KCTC and West Michigan, how many kids in schools are competing for those few spots? That's what the problem is.
Like you said, that wait list is astronomical now.
Because now we found out that they got a program. So it's like, and if you a bulldozer, if you a bulldog like me, all my kids getting in. So that means somebody else's kids is not. Because when I found out it was a waiting list, I said, well, how many kids at Kendall was not on it? Because I'm about to make sure my kids get in the programs that they need. So it's dog eat dog world. Sorry to another school, but I want my kids having all the advantages. So I said, we're going to some meetings. We having some conversations, because I don't want my students left out, but we only have 2 or 3 options. I think they're starting to recognize putting more federal dollars so you have more options, putting more grants in there so we have more options for kids, and taking money from things that are not working, and really looking at our technical, really looking at our trades and how do we build that up at a lower level, and put federal funding towards those type of programs to help kids see where they want to go, because that is when it hits the road, rubber hits the road.
And farming, and because they had, farming class, like farming, you'd go out and intern at a farm in middle school, like all that stuff. It seems to me that it kind of makes me smile that it's starting to make this full turn.
Yeah.
It's like the pendulum swinging the other direction. So, I mean, that's good news. It's now you got to rebuild the systems and the infrastructure kind of to be able to
Mhm.
like, how do you get more of them in? Because
And you got to put
the
money behind
trade,
it. You got to put money behind it. It has to be a priority. You got to put federal dollars to say this is what we want to do to support this. So, and it's one pot of money that we're all competing with for in schools.
Mhm.
Mental health is competing for money. I start to think of equity different, and that has helped because even with DBI money, I'm like, if I can take money and put it towards trade schools, because they're like, if it's for me, diversity is access, and I can put it towards that, I think that is helping rebuild some of these things. But that is the thing is when you put dollars toward it, everybody's competing for this same pot of dollars. But I also think we can do this by working with people in our community who are doing these types of things. We can do this because there's one component that might be, and I don't know all that there is of flooring, but somebody can say, I went and started flooring, but it taught me to do these 5 other things. And within
Mhm.
flooring, I didn't know that I could do design. I didn't know that I can do this. I didn't know. So we have to start working with businesses that want to work with us and say, if I can't get into KCTC, how can I work with Daniel and his company to provide a great internship experience for our students where they're still getting high school credit for doing some of those same things that might equate for a job for me in the summer, that might equate for something else if I do a good job. We have to start to think, how can we establish these relationships with local businesses so we can make this progress until the system doesn't have this bottleneck? Because that's what it's going to take, is working with who's in your community, who's doing this type of work.
Right. We were already, because, my son's going into high school now, and we were already talking about how we can have a whole football team worth of kids working for us in the summer when we need them.
I'm right here with you, but
Amen.
I'm serious. I told somebody I got to reshift my focus, and maybe I won't be so disgruntled all the time if I can get some kids. Because for me, it is about the kids. Like, I know this is why I do that. Arguing with adults all day about diversity and equity and wearing my ally t-shirts and celebrating these things. If I can put my kids in spaces where they feel like they're making a difference for their families, they're learning a trade, they're getting money, that is what's going to carry them. That is what's going to make them feel good. That is going to help my title is diversity, equity, and mental health. And I know we don't feel valued if we are a working society. If you can't contribute to the society that you live in, it is not good for your mental health. And kids are having a hard time, and families are having hard times feeling like, how can they contribute? So I know if I get my kids in some of these programs and they have mentoringships, so I don't need to say I can't do this because I don't have a father at home, I don't have a mother at home, or I'm adopted, or I'm living in foster care, because I have a mentor like Daniel who's teaching me a trade and a skill that helps me feel like I can contribute. Then all those other things, we now have this community perspective, and diversity and equity and mental health looks differently, because just sending kids sometimes to counseling and saying this is going to do it's unrealistic for me. It's putting kids in these spaces where one kid was like, you think I want not to have any windows in my trailer? I just don't know how to fix them. I just don't know how to help my mom.
You know what? You just made me think about something too. It's like, so teaching someone how to do any of the trades, anything that we do, whether in construction period, the education system is requiring it to be an accredited program. Why do I need to have an accredited program that has to go through the schooling and be filtered out through the governed body instead of me just teaching someone? Why can't I just pass some background checks, pass some safety classes and safety requirements, and then teach that to the kids? Why, they're still learning. Just because it doesn't run through an organization or a higher education.
You don't have to be accredited to do it necessarily,
or for them to recognize it.
For them to recognize it and the kid get credit for it. But the exposure side, you could have, like, if you could figure out a way to have like I like what you said, a mentor, like a trade mentor. And you're like trade mentor international, and you got all these tradesmen in there that's willing to mentor a few kids a month and take them out onto, whether it's projects, and obviously safety is always concern. So I realize that. Don't hit me up in the comments.
Yeah.
Like, but mentor them. There's got to be some way to continue the boat. I'm glad that I'm glad the wave's coming, but it's like we got to capture some of it somehow.
The young lady that was working at the career day, Catherine, I talked to her a little bit about it too, and she said that there's some walls up. But if the kid can do some work, like Daniel said, in the summer, right? When they're not in school, so it's not interfering with education. And then when they're out of high school, say they're 16 to 18, come and work just with us for a summer to help as an internship. Now they have an option with experience. They can get hired in at a higher rate.
A paid internship at that, right?
Yeah, a paid internship at that.
And even
but then they have experience, and they can.
And that's
do
good
that.
because in college you're doing a lot of unpaid internships.
Right.
Even like
And is there? This is a question to you. Is there any trade internships that? I mean, is that a thing? Most of the internships I hear about with our college or even if you're in high school, just a summer job.
No,
you know,
we have programs where our seniors have to have it. Our seniors, because they've met their requirements and they have to be there, can do internships. We just don't have a strong intern. Like me and my friend Matt, he was like, I really want a better internship program. So seniors do take in, like a kid emailed me and said, can I intern for you? And I said, well, what does that entail? That means every day I'm with you for every day from 2 to 3 to the end of school, and I have to have learning activities. What happens is I just say, come in, sit at a desk, file, you know what I mean? It's not like but these kids do. I don't know what all of our programming for our internships looks like, but there are schools that I had one from Byron Center one year, and they had started canceling those programs, and Maggie ran it, and she said the problem was your intern wanted to be a social worker, and she got value. She was in the classroom, she was working with kids, she was doing groups, even as a high schooler. She said, so, but people don't value the internship. So it became something that schools are like, are we going to keep buying into this whole idea of a internship? But I have a very forward thinking superintendent, and we've even talked about we went through when the tornado took out our whole trailer park, took a whole trailer park out, the tornado. And me and him walked and knocked on doors, and we saw trees in between people's houses and kids displaced and then the Red Cross only being able to help a portion of them, or kids not knowing. Like one mom was like, we don't have any windows. She's putting plastic on windows. We don't have any floors anymore. That's the kind of stuff where you get your interns and say, okay, this is a project now that we have to do. This is something that's going to help our community. I want it where we can find, are there federal dollars we can help with this? But that's that whole idea of how do we have some discussions around this, and how do we do this around the community? Because I think schools already have internships. It's just what they're having the kids. It's just a lazy mentality of what they're having the kids do. Like one kid told me, I'm not learning anything from my internship. I'm just going so I can get my credit and be done. So I think schools do have opportunities. Catherine, I didn't know Catherine existed before my career fair, but I told her, I want people to have a seat at the table. I want you to have, when you have to advocate for something and when she says there are barriers up, I want her to talk to you all and say, okay, what am I advocating for? Because she has a seat at the table. She's at the table. She's at the ISD. She's at the table. What do I need to advocate for, and why, when this money comes down, or when they say, because they always say to me, Brooke, what are the barriers? When we look at diversity and we look at equity, what are the barriers? Well, the barriers are you're putting barriers up for companies to be able to accept our kids because they're not going through this program, or they're not attached. It's not who you know, when this is very good opportunities for kids. How can we break down those barriers? Because again, if I say, equity is about access, how can I give my kids access when 1,300 are on a waiting list? I want to go through other options. I want to be able to set my kids up with this flooring company and that flooring company, and it still be accredited, because right now there's nothing else out there for them. Are they just supposed to not get anything? So how can we continue to break down barriers so kids have access to do these things? And how do we say, okay, well, what does the internship program look like? And how do we support it? Like, I'm one person working on everything that there is to work on in a school. I need the counselors to be on board. I have to tell my counseling team, this year we focused on making sure our Asian American students had people that they could talk to or understand them and help them get to the next level. So I brought in I'm not doing it. I brought in somebody else. That's what we need to do for trades too. I need to be able to say to the counselors, we're focused on trades. Get trades in this building. Do what you need to do. When money comes up, I'll say, okay, I will help apply for a grant or federal dollars or to do this, but I need you all to start working with the kids to find out what they really want to do. And it just needs to be a focus of ours for the year. So
we just need to start glorifying trades and any other avenues like we do individuality. We need to start putting everything on a pedestal and rising it together instead of creating that the every person out for themselves. If someone's not supporting what you believe in as an individual, then they're not part of your team. We got to try to get rid of that and be more inclusive to everyone being on the same team and focusing on the
Well, I think
same light.
that's kind of what I took from this. It's you're looking at, you know, the diversity from a different perspective, and it kind of opened my eyes, right? You're not looking at it like these different groups. You're looking at it as what can we bring to the table so everyone can
Access.
partake. Yeah, access.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And not only that, the whole mentorship thing, right? That
Yeah.
you talked about, you know, school aside, you know, I joke all the time about our kids in this school district. Anytime we're on a team, we bring the diversity, right? I joke
Yeah.
about that all the time. And it's nice, right, for the kids to have that. And I bring some of our like the food. Some kids didn't
Oh,
have some of the food until we started coming around, and I like to bring
it is
that
the
to the
culture.
table.
It is what kids want, and it is what kids. My niece told me she's in college right now. She said her job, she's gonna just lay on the beach. I told my sister, "Oh, this is what she learning in college in upstate New York." And we are a hardworking family. I said, your grandfather was a mailman and delivered newspapers, so you could go to college. Like your mom is a single mom. We work hard. I don't understand laying on the beach. She got a job being a waitress at the like a restaurant that is that meets her needs. It's on the corner. It's in this, you know, this those places where it's fancy. It's not fancy, but it's like where would you want to the restaurant? You know what I mean? Like these new wave restaurants that's coming up. She loves it. Loves the people. She can just be herself. But for her, it is. She always says people lack culture. We go to places. There's no. There's auntie. There's just no culture. There's just no. There's no. She's a great cook. She was like, there's no flavor. You know, you got to have. When you say you bring the diversity, every time you used to say that, I used to be like, oh, they bring in the flavor because people like to have fun. People want to be a part of. Kids want to have fun. They want to learn. They want to. This generation that we are raising, like she says, I want to experience lots of different things. I just don't want to experience one thing. I want to learn
Right.
lots of things.
And
And
I think that's where like we get that from my mom, right? Because I've gone to Mexico with my mom a number of times now, and that's what she pushes. You know, you're learning your culture. So
yeah,
I take my kids down there, and it's like we don't stay at a resort. We stay at an Airbnb. We eat where the locals eat. We're
yeah,
experiencing the culture,
yes.
and and we bring that culture, and then we show people here. You know, whether it's the
Yep. They
food
bring that
or
culture back and get
experiences.
everybody sick.
Well, let me tell
But
you, these kids. I'm gonna tell you about the kids because my niece went. My dad. She came home. She's been in Taiwan and London. She's not. She if it's up to her, she'd never step back on a college campus. So she tried to do study abroad projects. She tried to go everywhere she can. She came home and my dad said we can't eat at McDonald's. We can't eat at Burger King. I can't shop at Amazon. She got so many rules. These kids come back with these rules. She said, "Oh, TikTok then said this. This is who we got to vote for." He 80. He said, I want a hamburger. I want a hamburger from McDonald's. And I said, Daddy, sneak and go get one. He said, I can't. She gonna find out. But this is what these kids are about. They are experiencing life very different than us, and we have to figure out how to celebrate that. And we have to figure out how to, like I told my dad, some things we have to embrace for her because this is the life and the generation that she's living. But they will work hard. They will work hard for you, and they will work hard with you if they know that you are willing to listen and understand them, and they want to be a part of something bigger than themselves.
right,
She wants to work for a company where that company has, she'll say, some type of social justice, some type of focus, not just people come to work and go home. I want to know my coworkers. Back in the day, you used to go to the part, you know, my dad was like, when he was at the post office, we went, it was a family. The post office was a family. Now, you don't have that in your workplace where you're experiencing things. The baseball team, you don't know your neighbors. People are all, she was like, I wasn't raised that way. I was raised with my neighbors being Greek. And I went over there and said, well, teach me something about being Greek and Yayatina. Or so it's very different for them, and we have to recognize that. And they like to do by self. So she does not want to call somebody in to fix the toilet. My niece said, BB taught me how to do it. I want to do it. She says, told my sister, I can hang the pictures in our house. They might not be perfect, but I want to hang it. So it's just working with this, but celebrating. And that mentorship is very important. So even if you are white, it's okay that you have a male Latin mentor. It is okay. It is okay that you have somebody that sometimes does not look like you that can help you learn and grow. And that's what we have to start doing, is helping these kids find themselves.
right. And
Amen.
like Elena says that, you know, they run into funding issues too, with the best intentions when a program starts, and a lot of it is, you know, she's been through the finding people through Goodwill and stuff like that, and there's installers that don't necessarily look or the part or look like someone that a homeowner would want in their home, so you know people don't hire them, but that's the stigma,
Send them
right?
to the commercial world. We don't care.
Well, I mean, we talked about the eBay study. I told y'all about eBay study. People are crazy. If you got a darker hand selling the phone versus a white hand, they pay more money because this bias that has creeped up into us. I look at some of the commercials and how we've exposed our kids to TV and some of the stuff but it's creeped up to them into thinking that part of that culture matters. Like I say, sometimes they say men know more about women than technology, so they're not buying a computer on Marketplace from a woman.
I think it just boils down to sometimes you have to hire these people. Like we've been through it. Jose's been on the end where, you know, you walk into somewhere and they start talking to you like you don't speak English, and it's like, you work here today? And he just looks at him, he's like, I speak better English than you, and then just walks away. And it's like, oh, like, but he's also messed around with people where he's like, no English. Like, so
I think he'd be bringing some of that stuff on himself. Well, I want to thank everybody for their contributions today. We ran a little bit over, but it's
one of those topics. Like I told Brooke before, it's one of those topics that it can go anywhere.
Yeah, and
anytime you have me, it's gonna go over.
That's okay. We have to stop ourselves too. We have a really bad habit of talking.
Yeah, we've done this before. Your perspective on this is really, I think some people stated this in the comments as well. It's eye-opening that at such a young age, opening up the access is the key to diversity. And it sounds like that's kind of the crux, that point, the inflection point is when they're young, to expose them to all opportunities that you can as parents, but the school system has to do a better job, like you said. So I don't know that we can fix that overnight, but we certainly can fix it in our community. You've suggested some really cool ways in which we can get involved. In fact, while I was on here, I Googled like Kansas internships for construction and found a little site to explore and see what's out there. Cause I didn't even know that something like that existed. So it's been eye-opening for me as well.
Something that we'll probably have to get with Kennewill about and probably try and work something out to get some kids in here.
Got ideas.
Just working on measuring programs and, in the office while we're here. We're 5 minutes away from the school.
Yeah, and it'd be amazing. Yeah, I'm all about it.
Well, I hope that you enjoyed the podcast, because we certainly enjoyed it. I probably talked less than I ever have, just listening to you present your ideas, and you do so well. And I think that I've learned a lot, and I hope everybody else has. It's been a hell of a good time. So, gentlemen, as always, it was a pleasure. And Brooke, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
It was really awesome. So if you guys like what you see, give us a like, give us a subscribe, make a comment, and if you
don't like it,
what's next?
Say you don't like it.
Yeah, we'll take it. We'll take it either way. So thanks, everybody. We'll cut this off now, and we'll see you guys next week.
Thanks, everyone.